In recent years, the Wild Sheep Foundation and others have put increased focus on thin-horned sheep populations in North America. Dall sheep and stone sheep populations have not varied as greatly as those of bighorn sheep over the past 100 years, but detailed information on the actual composition and movement of these herds has been limited.
There was an early map put out by an early naturalist and hunter, Charles Sheldon. It's a great map, and he made his best shot at mapping thin-horn sheep distribution as of 1911. And so if you look at a contemporary map from modern day now, 105, 106 years later, they're pretty similar. But what have absolute numbers done?
We don't have that type of data set available to us in stone sheep range anywhere else. Bighorn sheep, well, they're from the same similar origin. They behave different, they use landscapes different. A lot of the study to date has been around and involving bighorn sheep and their habitat use.
To begin prioritizing project work in Thin-Horn Range, in 2014, the Thin-Horn Summit was held. This was an opportunity for experts from a variety of disciplines to discuss and begin to prioritize projects focused on the well-being of thin-horn sheep. This was followed up by a second summit that expanded the conversation and dug deeper into the issues.
4 years ago, we brought about 70 of the best and brightest minds of the thin-horn sheep advocates and biologists together for the first Thin-Horn Summit.
It was really a gut check on what do we need to do more of, differently, etc.
Meanwhile, the community of Dease Lake in northern British Columbia had identified an ongoing issue with their local wildlife. The wildlife in the area was diverse. Observations indicated that the numbers were diminishing, creating a growing concern, particularly among the members of the community whose heritage, livelihood, and well-being relied on this resource. The Tahltan Guide Outfitter Association began to pull together the various stakeholders and initiated a grassroots effort to discuss the issues and identify solutions. The Wild Sheep Foundation learned of this effort and was eager to support it.
Our moose is declining, our caribou is declining, our stone sheep is declining. It was all to do with wildlife. Put wildlife in front instead of us in front.
About mid-90s, it seemed like the stone sheep population started to decline.
Our moose and our caribou and our sheep and our goats, our porcupine, our grouse, right? And yes, it has had a big impact on it. The last few years where we're having people have empty freezers in the winter time, and it's quite concerning because those people who have those empty freezers don't have a Walmart or a Safeway just down the street. We got to drive 600-700 kilometers to get to the nearest, major food chain supplier.
Collectively, we need to understand that there are diseases that impact the animals, and as well commercial development. You got mining and logging and all those things that we need to construct the habitat and protect it in a way that suits the animals.
First step is obviously acknowledging that there's issues and then getting everybody in the room together to talk about solutions and not fighting each other and not having egos about who has more of a say on wildlife. We've really put wildlife at the center and had discussions about making sure that wildlife is there for future generations.
There's something different happening. You have First Nations, outfitters, local community members that are coming together for the betterment of wildlife and doing our best to leave politics out of wildlife management.
To support this effort and to begin creating a base of knowledge of stone sheep behavior, the Wild Sheep Foundation, along with the Safari Club International Foundation, the BC Fish and Wildlife Agency, and local individuals and businesses funded and initiated the Jade Boulder Dome Mountain Project. This project focuses on a herd of 160 stone sheep east of Dease Lake. This herd would move south in the winter and north in the summer. In the middle of this winter and summer range was an industrial road currently used for exploration and recreation. New proposed mining activity could significantly increase traffic along this road.
We put together a project that would identify those crossing periods along with habitat and predation, because there's very little known about sheep in northwestern British Columbia. This is the only collaring project in British Columbia on stone sheep currently.
The reason why we color these sheep, we want to know their movements from the winter range over into their summer range. And we want to know what the Jade Boulder Road, how much disturbance that is for these sheep where they migrate across to their summer.
These 10 radio collars, they're GPS, global positioning satellite collars. And so they have a fixed rate, a relocation rate of every 4 hours. And so there's really fine scale, detailed information on daily movements.
So depending upon how they move across this road and depending upon how they're influenced by traffic, whether it be industry or recreational, there is a potential for increased vulnerability to predation. There's also the potential from increased movement and human activity on this road in the future to introduce things like disease through livestock, introduce other forms of mortality, illegal harvest, potentially road mortality, etc., etc.
The Dome Mountain project is unique in the sense that it's collecting baseline data on sheep movement and sheep habitat use in a landscape pre-industrial or resource extraction type development. The hope is that the information will then help inform better management if resource extraction activities are approved.
With this project, what you see is a community and a community-based science where people all of a sudden feel empowered that, you know what, we can have a part to play in conservation.
Never knew actually what they looked like in person, and they're really fluffy and they're quite smaller than what you would think. Hold the horns of the sheep, which was really cool, and you hear the sheep's heart beating. We learned so much, and it's cool to actually see in person rather than learning it from like a textbook.
The project was able to take advantage of the latest in GPS trackers that provide near real-time information on sheep location and behavior, and supported online monitoring. Following the funding of the Jade Boulder Dome Mountain project, Helen Swanshaw and Kylie Thacker identified an opportunity to introduce an additional initiative focused on stone sheep health. This type of effort was sorely needed for this species.
It's been a dream of mine for many years. There's been a lot of advances in how to test wild sheep for health, in particular diseases that are transmitted from domestic animals. And we've made those kind of technological advances to the point that we can do this in a remote setting like the kind of settings that stone sheep live in. We were able to, this fall, with the help of the Wild Sheep Foundation and the Rinke family, do some pretty neat stuff where we were able to take the samples from the animals and that night start culturing them, start doing the lab work right back at camp. And that's pretty exciting for me anyway. We're hoping to grow the project and come up with some really interesting solutions to the question, do thin horns represent the naive form of wild sheep in North America, where there has been no contact with domestic sheep, domestic goats, domestic camelids? These animals are pristine in terms of their health.
The level of excitement in the community has reached new heights. The momentum created by these initial projects has created an environment where problems are getting solved through mutual efforts and collaboration.
The project itself lets there be action seen. Everybody loves to talk about all the problems and have meetings and spin their wheels, and to have a project that everybody can get behind has been very important, just so people can see action at work.
Fire of conversation starts with the spark. The spark was, the participation and endorsement of the seed funding necessary to get this project going. And in the case of the Dome Mountain project, a significant portion of that project is funded by the Wild Sheep Foundation.
It brings everybody to the forefront and realizing the real values. There's a lot of the organizations out there, and the ones that are just starting up, and First Nations themselves, have never seen this real opportunity before. And I think it's a positive step in realizing we need to put wildlife right on up front.
It's the children and the young people that are the future, and when you have young people abandoning well-paying jobs in mines to come back home and work with wildlife because that's what they truly believe in, then that's what we need to help support.
What I see happening here is a template for other jurisdictions.
This project is a catalyst for cooperation and collaboration for years to come. This project brought the ministry, a First Nation group, Wild Sheep Foundation and Guide Outfitters together to focus on the resource and do good work. And I see this as a model for things to come.
The Wild Sheep Foundation is proud to be a partner in these efforts. This represents the latest thin-horn sheep project in our history and will have an impact of stone sheep management throughout their range for many years to come.
The Wild Sheep Foundation, I think they're more than just conservation allies in this. They were part of this group, part of this workshop and session, symposium, delivering a message, let's work together to benefit not only wild sheep, but there was a lot of talk around healthy mountainscapes. So mountain goats benefit, mountain caribou benefit from that sort of thing. But they're, like I said, they're really more than just conservation allies. They really are conservation partners.
The Wild Sheep Foundation is a wonderful organization, and they brought forward new ideas and sharing with the real opportunities and having the resources to share with the non-native community and native communities. You know, to involve the Tahltans in the research project here in the Tahltan Torrey is a real positive step.
I've seen a very significant relationship established between the Wild Sheep Foundation and the Tahltan people, and frankly the three nations, not just the Tahltan people. But I think there's a special bond there with the Tahltan.
They're on the ground floor here helping all user groups to try and help the wild sheep.
It's exciting anytime you can partner with an organization that has that kind of passion and expertise on a particular species.
If it wasn't for the Wild Sheep Foundation, we wouldn't have a project. They've funded our initial capture and coloring, as well as collection of data, and assisted with basically all the equipment needs and the labor needs that we've had.
The Wild Sheep Foundation is their impact to more local regional populations and species, and their ability to raise funds and awareness for this is monumental. And partnering with us as the First Nations and Guide Outfitters is critical to their success and our success. You know, the audience that they can take the message to is so much broader than what we have locally.
You know, this is an exciting project, and it's a start. It's not the end game. What we hope is that as a catalyst for more and more thin-horn sheep programs, more thin-horn sheep projects, more emphasis on thin-horn sheep. They too need our help. And with this data and with the partnerships that we've developed with the Tahltan Central Government, the Tahltan Guide Outfitters Association, we know that we will be able to accomplish our purpose to put and keep more stone sheep on the mountain in northern British Columbia.